Hello and welcome to Beyond the Bio. In this episode, I'm joined by Marianne Page, who runs a global small business focused on helping other successful small business owners in any industry to build an operation that runs like clockwork without them even needing to be there. For 27 years, Marianne worked as a senior manager with McDonald's, a business famous for its systems, structure and scalability. And her mission now is to help successful small business owners to build the systems and the structure that will double their team's productivity and halve the time that they spend working in their business. Marianne is the author of 3 books on the subject, and she's created several unique programs that have helped business owners worldwide to build a consistent operation. I'm really excited to speak to Marianne today because 3 books is no mean feat. So let's get stuck in and find out what possessed her to write 3 books. Welcome, Marianne, to Beyond the Bio. It is great to have you on the show as an author and many other things as well. But you've written 3 books, right? Not just one, but 3.
Yeah. The oldest one's 10 years old. I realised today as I
Wow.
was getting ready for this little chat. I thought, flipping heck, 10 years. Where did that go?
That is a lot. And what made you write more than one? Was it that you had more ideas, or tell us about that?
Yeah, it was sort of the evolution of my thinking. So the first book literally launched my business. I mean, it was sort of ticking along really slowly. I got the book out there, and clients just found me. It was amazing. It was quite dramatic, actually. It was quite shocking in a good way.
Well, tell us a bit more about that, because that sounds like a story in itself.
Yeah, well, the thing with me, I love writing, but I'd always wanted to write a book, but actually a crime thriller, not a book called Process to Profit, which doesn't really have the zing, you know. But the good thing about that title was that it attracted the right sort of business owners for me, and generally like fairly chaotic people who've got a successful business, but they just don't have the processes that keep them consistent. So that title really seemed to just resonate with good people. And actually, one client, he said, "I've been reading your book on a beach, and I need to talk to you. We need to work together." It was like, oh my God, this actually works. I'd been told it works, but no, it really does. So yeah, it was, and it just grew from there. It was really good.
Amazing.
Really loved it. But in terms of why the next 2 books, the second one was definitely an evolution of my thinking. If I'm honest, the first book is like, here's everything I know about process and how to make your business more consistent. And then my thinking, because I'd been in corporate, and if you've been in corporate and you come into small business, to be honest, it took me about 18 months just to learn the language of small business compared to corporate. And my thinking was, at the time, my thinking was pretty much everything I learned in McDonald's is going to work with small business. And that's sort of how I wrote the first book. But the more I worked with small business, the more I realized actually there are way more nuances to it than it's not as straightforward as here, just do this because McDonald's do it and it works. That we need to work slightly differently. So the second book, Simple, Logical, Repeatable, is literally, I wrote it because I recognized that if you keep things simple, if you make them logical, and then if you make them repeatable, then you're going to get that consistency. And it just became, there was a clarity in my mind when I wrote that second book. I mean, the first book probably took me 3 months to write. The second book took me literally 2 weeks to get the first draft down.
Wow.
Because it was just there, and I just got it down on paper. And then obviously the editing and all that sort of stuff took a bit longer. But it was a very straightforward process because my thinking was so clear. And then the third book really is focused at the managers of small businesses, because it was to solve a problem, because so many small business owners have never been developed as people managers themselves. And then they promote people in their team to manage people, and then they don't give them the development that they need. So, and also I kept hearing so many people say, God, people manager, I never want to manage people. It's hideous. And one of the joys of my life when I was at McDonald's was building teams. I loved it. I really got a kick out of seeing people grow and develop and start to fulfill their potential. So the Mission to Manage book was really to say, it isn't mission impossible. It really is possible to enjoy building a great team and to have a great team around you. And when you've got a great team around you, everything's easier, as you probably know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was a definite progression.
And I guess a reader of your books probably reads all three, but is any one of those more popular than the others?
Yeah, simple, logical, repeatable is
The middle
definitely
one.
the one that has my thinking clearer, if you like. And Mission to Manage, because it's very definitely aimed at managers. So that's, for managers, that's great. For business owners, the simple, logical, repeatable, the middle one is definitely the most popular. And it's funny, when you first invited me onto this podcast, you talked about the magic of books. And it was really, just last week on LinkedIn, there was a post from a guy who he's a tutor at Cambridge University. And he messaged me to tell me that he was using my books, both Simple, Logical, Repeatable and Mission to Manage, with his students from 11 countries. And I was just thinking, oh my God, if he hadn't told me, that would have been happening. And it's like that. You don't know what your books are doing unless people actually tell you. You don't know that people have read them unless they tell, when
That
you
is
see
wild.
books have been bought. It was wild. It was like, my God, it's a magical thing. It was almost like, I know what I can talk about when I go on with Sophie, because that is magic.
It
It's
is.
like, just, yeah.
And what did you do with that information? Did you share it? Did it lead to a conversation with him, or did you just say, awesome, I love that?
I definitely shared it. Definitely led to a conversation with him to actually go in and talk to his students.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Because that's what it is all about, isn't it? It's about, the thing with books, as you know very well, is that books aren't there to make you money in and of themselves. They are there to promote you. I mean, I literally use my books as business cards, very expensive business cards, I will say. But what you get back from it is tenfold what you invest in giving somebody a book. If they don't want it, they pass it on to somebody else. If they've enjoyed it, they'll pass it on to somebody else, or they'll buy their team. It's a real magical process. That opportunity to speak to people through the words of a book and then to connect with them physically it's amazing. It is amazing.
Awesome. And how did you publish your books?
I did, I can't remember what you call it. Is it hybrid publishing?
For all three?
Hybrid. Yes, for all three. Funnily enough, the third one, I changed my publisher because I entered a competition to win a publishing deal, depending on how you put your proposal together, and it won. So I got a free publishing deal, which was rather nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Although it was a little challenging conversation to tell my original publisher that I was going with somebody else.
Wow.
But these things happen.
And what would your feedback be around working with a hybrid publisher?
I found it very straightforward, actually. The thing for me with my writing is actually, just generally, I guess business owners, we're all control freaks. But I write as I talk, and I don't like to be shoehorned into writing in a more, I don't know, corporate way, a more professional way. I want people to hear my voice as they're reading it, sorry. So the editing was interesting just because we had slightly different views. But generally speaking, it was a very straightforward process. I mean, the hardest part of writing a book is just recognizing that you have a book in you, if you know what I mean. It's having the confidence to go, there is a book in me. I'm going to get it down into I use mind maps, spider diagrams, as I prefer to call them. But I like to get a mind map down there and go, yeah, there's enough to talk about here. There's enough for a book. I'm actually in the middle of writing my fourth one.
Oh my word. I'm gearing up for number 3.
Every 4 years there's been a book. So I thought, oh well. But it is because my thinking has evolved again. Because the more experience you get, the more you learn from other businesses, the more you learn from authors, from publishers.
And will you use a hybrid publisher for
yes.
number 4? So just for anyone that's listening that's not come across that term before, I guess the easiest way to explain it is you've got self-publishing at one end of the scale, where in theory you do everything yourself, although you might have to outsource some of those bits. At the other end of the scale, you've got traditional publishing, which is a traditional book deal. A lot of business book authors tend to go for that middle hybrid option,
Yes.
which is somewhere in between, where you're getting the support of an editor, someone that's going to design the cover, someone's going to help you a little bit with marketing and certainly with the proofreading and editing, etc., which has a cost to it. And you will also probably within that cost have to give them some of your royalties for the book as well, but they're helping you and holding your hand throughout that process. So it's kind of like the middle option, and it's quite popular with business book authors because they like to retain the control of the content but have that professional support. So just in case anyone hasn't heard that term before, that's what we're talking
Absolutely.
about.
And that whole thing with hybrid as well, the thing that I loved about it was the speed.
Mm.
So it's a much shorter process than the traditional book deal route. And yes, the book deal, obviously, they promote the heck out of you, but the hybrid deal, you get that control, but you also get that speed to publication, which I really loved.
Yeah, I like that as well. It was good for the handheld. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to use for my next one, but
Yeah.
so I've got time to think about that. So how did you find the writing process itself now that you're gearing back into getting it? Have you got a particular style? Do you write at a certain time, or tell us about
Yeah,
that?
I have a Friday writing day.
Oh, a writing
And I
day.
like to use my Friday writing days, and I like to write early in the morning. So as soon as the dogs are walked, straight in and just sit and write. And when I wrote the first book, I thought, right, 2 hours every day till it's done. I tended to go 3 or 4 because once I got into
You're in
it,
the flow,
it
right?
just, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when it's flowing, just, you got to just go with the flow.
Definitely.
So leaving space around any scheduled writing time was really important for me, and sort of why I did the Friday writing day. This latest book has taken me way longer than any of the
Oh,
others.
so you're already writing it? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you were just getting to that point. No,
No.
you're in there. You're in the zone.
No, I started with a book buddy, and my book buddy is published, launched, the whole works. It's a good thing though. It's a good thing because what I had as my outline, again, my thinking has changed in terms of how to position it, which has been interesting. And I'm really quite excited about the new direction that it's going in. So I'm not unhappy. I think things happen for a reason. So I'm not unhappy that it's been delayed. But it is something that is definitely, it needs to be out there in 2024.
Well, you've
that's an
committed to it
absolute.
now, so
I've committed in public.
we'll be keeping an eye out for that. So with 3 books, obviously you've had the opportunity to do 3 launches of those books. Have you got any top tips around what works well for a launch?
Planning is the main thing. Planning, having somebody who is on it, working with you, whether that's a member of your team, if you're lucky enough to have somebody like that. If not, to hire in the expertise. And the other thing would be PR. I used a PR firm, Adio, when I launched the middle book and the third book. The first book, to be honest, I'm ashamed to say my marketing was shocking.
Well,
But
you
second,
learn.
absolutely, you learn. But yeah, having a PR team who get you into the right publications, who sort of build the excitement, if you like, for the launch, and then getting the right people to the launch.
Did you have in-person parties for those books 2 and 3?
For the third one, not the second one. No, that's not true. It's the second one, not the third one, because the third one was in COVID.
I knew you were going to say that. Bloody COVID.
Yeah. And obviously that does impact it to a degree. But if I'm honest, I think the online excitement is the bit that really works. It really worked for me. And also getting communities that you're in behind the launch, behind the day that you actually launch, getting that excitement, getting that, bestseller status. Because it matters to be able to say, you have best-selling books rather than you just have books.
Did all of yours become bestsellers?
Not the first one, because I learned, but the second and third one, yeah.
It's so cool. And that day when you're refreshing Amazon every hour.
Absolutely. It's
Has it moved
top.
up?
Oh my God. Yeah, it's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. So exciting. I mean, just getting the box of books is so exciting. Just, opening that box and holding it. And my second one, interestingly, has a really lovely cover. It really feels that everybody that picks up goes, oh, this feels nice. Why it's different to the others, I have no idea, but it's very nice feel.
The one to beat them for the next book.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thinking about the book magic, obviously you've got a lovely example there from Cambridge University recently. What other opportunities have your books created for you?
Yeah, several speaking opportunities, which has been great.
In that someone's read the book and reached out and said, "Hey, we want
Yes.
you to speak." Cool.
Yeah, no, that's been really good. I mean, most of it has been we need to work together, particularly with the managers one. The managers one has really resonated with the sort of successful small business just about to become medium-sized business. Got a group of like 12, 13 managers. They've bought the book for everybody, and now they want me to come in and run a bespoke development program for them. That sort of thing is entirely on the back of the book. You know, like everybody else, you know, I've got my own online marketing, you know, I've got my list and so on, but actually the book is out there working for me all the time. And as people share the book to others, Audible as well is getting the Audible book done.
Have you done that for all three of yours?
For second and third.
And have you recorded it yourself?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, your voice. Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's really important because you write in your voice, so you know how you meant this to be said. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It was good. It was good
And what's
fun
been
doing
the
that.
split between sales in terms of Audible versus sort of Kindle or paperback?
It's been a good split, actually. I'd say Audible slightly more,
Right.
slightly more than paperback, but Kindle is miles ahead. And particularly since they introduced the sort of library version of Kindle, I can't remember what you call it now, where you can just basically go in, read the book, and you don't have to buy it, which is unfortunate. But if people are reading the book, they're reading it to come and do business ideally, then I'm happy. It's
Yeah,
the same
like you
as
say,
giving away your book, really.
definitely don't make your millions from
Oh my
Kindle
Lord,
sales.
no, no.
That's for sure. How much does it cost you to do it with Audible?
Well, I did it through a guy who runs a recording studio, so it was actually much less. So it cost me £1,000.
Right. So was that going into a studio, recording it, and then them editing it? Is that how
Yeah,
it works?
yeah.
And then is there a cost with Audible?
Oh God, that's a very good question. No, I don't think there is actually.
Right, that's
No, I
interesting.
don't think there is.
Because I didn't put any of mine on Audible, so I'm just really
Oh,
interested in how it all
definitely.
works. So I
Yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah,
should
yeah.
do that, especially when we've got a studio. I could just
Of
record it here.
course. Yeah. Yeah, no, fantastic. No, I really enjoyed doing it was a very simple process. Literally reading the book, the guy doing all the edits, giving me the files, putting them onto Audible. It was
Oh, so
very
did you do
simple and
that
straightforward.
yourself? Did you put
Yeah,
them on Audible? Ah,
yeah,
awesome. Oh,
yeah.
that's cool. That's useful to know because I think I had in my head that it was really expensive, but I've never actually looked into it. So that's
No,
good.
I know it
Good to
can
know.
be. I know it can be, and if you do it through your publisher, it's certainly possibly 2 or 3 times what I paid. But to be
Doesn't
honest,
need to be.
it doesn't need
Yeah.
to be. No, no,
Oh,
and
that's a
especially
great
not if you've got a
bit of
studio. It
advice.
absolutely doesn't need
I
to be.
know, honestly. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I've got a studio that I've been sat in for a year and a half, and it's taken me till now to start my podcast, right? So always the way, isn't it, when it's yourself? But that's really cool.
But yeah, absolutely read it yourself. Definitely read it yourself.
Great advice. And I think I've tried listening to stuff on audio and I can't get my head around it because I like to write on
Yes,
things. If it's a business book, I like a paperback. So maybe
I'm
I'm a bit
right
old
there with you.
fashioned.
I do like listening to them, like when I'm out walking the dogs or if I'm driving the car. But I always have to have the book for exactly the same reason. I want to scribble notes in. I want to, I want to have a pen and paper, and you can't do that when you're driving a car.
Sure. But I
Yeah.
guess if it's quite reasonable to get it onto Audible and you're getting sales through that, then there's obviously a market for that. And your advice,
Oh,
it
definitely.
sounds like, would be to do that. So that's useful.
Especially my sort of clients who are very busy. They don't really have that much time to sit down and read a book, but they're traveling here, there, and everywhere. So they've got that opportunity still
Yeah.
to access it.
No, great advice there. So, any final advice for anyone that's actually sat here, that's listening now and thinking about writing a book that hasn't done it yet? What would you
Yeah,
say to them?
very simple advice. Write the damn thing. I genuinely believe we all have a book in us and that we all have unique experiences. It doesn't matter that you think somebody might be better than you or bigger than you or brighter than you, or we all have unique experiences that other people would be interested in, other people will learn from. I can't remember what the exact expression is, but you only have to be sort of one step ahead of somebody in order to be able to help them. Yeah, just write the book. Do yourself a mind map. work it out and then write it.
Get it planned out. Set your
absolutely.
Friday or whatever day to get it done.
Whatever works for you. A glass of wine at 6 o'clock in the evening, do it.
Thought you say 6 o'clock in the morning there.
Well, maybe.
Well, why not? Why not? Awesome. Cool. Oh, you've given so many great stories and great advice there. So thanks so much for joining me
Oh,
today.
my absolute pleasure, Sophie. Yes, great to be on here.
Thank you for listening. If you're serious about growing your profile, take our free profile assessment quiz to see where you're at right now and get hints and tips on how to improve your score. You'll find the link to the quiz in the show notes. If you've enjoyed the episode, it would be mint if you'd subscribe, like, and leave a review. See you next Monday.